Before you ask, yes, that is Teferi back there angrily staring at us. So we better do this real quick. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. I am here today to talk about an absolutely brutal new card from Core 2020. We're talking about Kaikar? Wind's Fury. I feel like that's what you do when you're dealing with a bird. I feel like that's the proper way to say the name. Anyways, let's take a look at the card. It's 1 white, 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 colorless for a 3/3 flying legendary bird wizard. Now, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, and you can sacrifice a spirit to add a red mana. The flavor text says, "The Raging Gale fans the flames of righteous wrath." Now, when you look at this card, if you're like me, you might have thought of something along the lines of Monastery Mentor, where he goes ahead and makes a 1/1 whenever you cast a non-creature spell. Or if you're more into Commander, you might have thought of something along the lines of like Talrand. Now, admittedly, Talrand only cares about instants and sorceries, but he does also make 2/2s. But either way, they're both cards that you may think of when you see something like Kakar here. Kakar! Every time I see the name. Now, when you look at the artwork, it looks pretty cool, honestly. You've got the bird wizard in mid-flight, generating like a giant fireball, doing his best to pretend like he's in a Dragon Ball episode. And it's funny to note when you look at it that he's got the tiny little head. Kefnet, I'm looking at you over there with your tiny little teeny bird heads. It's pretty funny to think of a wizard with a bird brain, because birds' brains are pretty tiny. So I do enjoy that. Now, you may be wondering, why did I call this card brutal? It's just like, okay, you've got this tiny-headed bird where his body looks kind of big because the robes are flowing around with his wings, and it looks like he's soaring off into the sun. It looks, I mean, aside from the whole ball of flame in his hands, it actually looks pretty peaceful. It's got kind of a serene feel to it, to a degree. Well, the reason that it's brutal is how he is generating that giant ball of fire there. What's going down is he's sacrificing spirits, and not just any spirits, 1/1 white spirits. And those are generally represented as human souls, or the souls of even non-humans. And you can see that in a number of cards. You can see cards like Field of Souls with its kind of like admittedly abstract and crazy sort of artwork illustrating the whole, check out these 1/1 spirits. These are people who have passed on. This is a whole field full of souls. And it's a little more on the nose when you look at something like the Geist Honored Monk, which is 2 white and 3 colorless for a star vigilance. That's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. But when it enters the battlefield, you put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. And look at the artwork. You have a ton of skulls in the back. You have literally a human or a humanoid spirit forming right there beside her. And actually, the flavor behind this is really cool too. Just the whole idea of this monk that is honored by spirits. I really dig the flavor of it. But either way, what's going on here is Kakar is summoning up a bunch of 1/1 white souls, the souls of living beings, and he's turning them into burn magic, essentially. He's taking them and pulling apart their essence to create red chaotic mana. Now that is absolutely horrifying. Honestly, when I thought about the flavor behind it, I'm like, he's so serene and peaceful, and he's building up the fireball, but you realize there's a bunch of souls that went into that. That's soul fire. That is really, really intense. And in all honesty, when I looked at that, thought about the flavor, it kind of got me interested in taking a look at what cards would be fun to combine with him, what would go well. Now, obviously, either in a commander style or just in a regular, what have you, normal 60 card deck. However, whatever flavor you want to play with, it's all good. Get you some of that blue, white, red Neapolitan almost ice cream. Anyhow, I picked out some fun cards. Now, we just mentioned 2 of them. The Geist Honored Monk we covered completely. So let's talk about Field of Souls. So that's 2 white and 2 colors. It's an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So there you go. You're going to harvest the souls of every single creature that you and put into your graveyard. We also have the Drogskull Cavalry. He seems like a pretty good fit. I mean, yes, admittedly, at 7 mana, 2 white, 5 colorless, he is pretty expensive, but overall, not too shabby. You get a 4/4 flyer. Whenever another spirit enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life, and he has the ability pay 1 white and 3 colorless to put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So even on his own, he's going to net you some life and build up the spirits, but in conjunction with Kakar, he's going to also give you life whenever Kakar makes those spirit tokens. So seems like a natural fit. There's a number of cards that feel like a natural fit. There's Hallowed Spirit Keeper, which is 2 white and 1 colorless for a 3/2 vigilance that when it hits your graveyard, you get X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, and X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So again, not too shabby. You've got Field of Souls to make sure you get creatures, you get spirit tokens when your creatures hit the graveyard. You've got Hallowed Spirit Keeper to make sure that you get token creatures from your graveyard as well. That's a nice little bonus. What else do we have to give you more spirits? Because that's what I'm all about here, is just spirit overload. It's Luminous Angel, specifically the one from Divine versus Demonic, because the artwork on it is like a million times better than the Mirrored artwork. But anyways, it's 3 white and 4 colorless for this absolutely beautiful looking angel. I love this artwork. It's got a hardcore angelic feel. I honestly like it when they lay into it and just go really heavenly. She looks amazing with that crazy staff spear sort of contraption she has, and all the white mana, like, or purity, whatever it is you want to say, aura just emanating out of her, spirit waves, whatever it is. Anyways, she's a 4/4 flyer, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you can put a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. It's pretty sweet, and again, get you the Divine versus Demonic artwork. Do not mess around with the Mirrored version, because it's ugh. Moving on, we're going to talk about what I think is probably like the strongest card to include with Kakar. It's just fun to say. It's Spirit Bonds. 1 white, 1 colorless. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay 1 white mana. If you do, you get a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Now I like that. It's 1 mana to get a bonus creature off of every creature that you have entering the battlefield under your control, which is pretty sweet. I mean, obviously it doesn't trigger for tokens, because that would create a crazy infinite loop. But either way, it only costs you 1 mana, so it'll basically let you turn your white mana straight into red if you're looking to do so by intermediaries of creatures. Bam, bam, bam. You put them out and sacrifice the tokens to Kakar, and you get that red mana. But it actually comes with another benefit, which makes it far more desirable. Spirit Bonds, that is. 1 white and 1 colorless, sack a spirit. Target non-spirit creature gains indestructible until end of turn. And remember, Kakar is a bird wizard, so he's not a spirit. You can 100% use this to save him. It, like, basically, you can cast non-creature spells like instants. You can cast an instant in response to something being cast, and then Kakar make a spirit token, and then you could sack that spirit token to make your creature indestructible. So it'll turn other instants into pseudo counterspells, which is a pretty cool idea. I really like the idea of Spirit Bonds with him, truthfully. Out of all the cards that I found to combine with him, Spirit Bonds was the most exciting. Now, I do have another one that I feel like is a good inclusion. Again, we're talking about the spirit tokens, because that's what I focused on for this. 1 white, 2 colorless for Twilight Drover. It's a 1/1. Whenever a creature token leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Twilight Drover. So whenever you're sacking the tokens, boom, there you go. You get to put +1/+1 counters on them. But then his ability is pay 1 white and 2 colors, remove a +1/+1 counter from Twilight Drover, put 2 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. So when this guy came out originally, people were just kind of like, if you don't have creature tokens, his first ability is very, very underwhelming. There may be other ways to put +1/+1 counters on him, but they don't really matter. But with Kakar, you can totally end up putting a bunch of counters on him as you sack for mana. And you could even just use that to reduce the cost of his secondary ability, thus creating more spirits, right? Like after you've basically like removed 1 token from him and make 2 spirits, you could sack both of those spirits. It would put 2 +1/+1 counters on him, and you could use the 2 red that you got from sacrificing them along with another white to create 2 more tokens. So you could use this just at instant speed to pump the Twilight Drover with any open mana that you have. It seems honestly like a really good fit, and I've always really enjoyed Twilight Drover's artwork. It's got that crazy ephemeral sort of feel where you can see right through the drover because he's a spirit himself, but he's like a shepherd of other spirits. And I really dig the flavor of it. I think it's nice artwork, nice flavor. And this is the first time I've ever seen a card where I was like, you know what, let's hook this up with Twilight Drover. That's honestly, Kakar was so cool in terms of the dark, crazy flavor of sacrificing spirits. I'm like, how do you push this to the limit? Obviously, you're going to want to find red and blue things to include. I don't do deck techs really, so this isn't a deck tech. It was more just like a, hey, I think that the flavor behind this legendary creature is really brutal. He's sacrificing souls to make this happen, which is crazy epic. And then after I looked at him, I'm like, dude, it would be fun to brew like something up with him. And so those were the ideas that I had in terms of white cards. But again, I'm not a deck builder when it comes to videos. So by all means, let me know what kind of funky other cards you might throw in from the other colors, or if there's something in white that makes spirits that I somehow managed to overlook that would be a good fit. Either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm gonna go ahead and roll the golden scroll. These are the people who have my back on Patreon or through channel memberships. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. To everyone, I say thanks for being here. And for now, I'm history, baby.